Federalist 7, Part 3, Competitions of Commerce would be another fruitful sort of contention. The states less favorably circumstanced would be desirous of escaping from the disadvantages of local situation and of sharing in the advantages of their more fortunate neighbors. Each state or separate confederacy would pursue a system of commercial policy peculiar to itself. This would occasion distinctions, preferences, and exclusions, which would beget discontent. The habits of intercourse on the basis of equal privileges, to which we have been accustomed since the earliest settlements of the country, would give a keener edge to those causes of discontent than they would naturally have independent of this circumstance. We should be ready to denominate injuries those things which were in reality the justifiable acts of independent sovereignties consulting a distinct interest. The spirit of enterprise which characterizes the commercial part of America has left no occasion of displaying itself unimproved. It is not at all probable that this unbridled spirit would pay much respect to those regulations of trade by which particular states might endeavor to secure exclusive benefits to their own citizens. The infractions of these regulations on one side, and the efforts to prevent and repel them on the other, would naturally lead to outrages, and these to reprisals and wars. The opportunities which some states would have of rendering others tributary to them by commercial regulations would be impatiently submitted to by the tributary states. Tributary means dependent, second class. The relative situation of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey would afford an example of this kind. New York, from the necessities of revenue, must lay the duties on her importations. A great part of these duties must be paid by the inhabitants of the two other states in the capacity of consumers of what we import. New York would neither be willing nor able to forego this advantage. Her citizens would not consent to that a duty paid by them should be remitted in favor of citizens of her neighbors. Nor would it be practicable, if there were not this impediment in the way, to distinguish the customers in our own markets. Would Connecticut and New Jersey long submit to be taxed by New York for her exclusive benefit? Should we be long permitted to remain in the quiet and undisturbed enjoyment of a metropolis from the possession of which we derived an advantage so odious to our neighbors and in their opinion so oppressive? Should we be able to preserve it against the incumbent weight of Connecticut on one side and the cooperating pressure of New Jersey on the other? These are questions that temerity alone will answer in the affirmative. Okay, notice here, this is part of New York, right here, this Long Island, and that's New York. So basically what it's saying is New York has good ports. Ships come and drop off cargo over there, and New York has some duty, some taxes added to it, and these in turn will be sold to New Jersey right there and Connecticut right there, and this will be to the advantage of people that live in New York and to the disadvantage of people in New Jersey and Rhode Island, in Connecticut. So it says this can't go that long. Those people in those states will not like it. And if we are disunited, you will see what happens. This is going to cause a lot of trouble. Lots of trouble. Okay, these are a couple of books that I recommend that you read. A Brilliant Solution by Carol Birkin. It talks about the Constitutional Convention. And this one, An Unruly Americans by Woody Holton. The next paragraph that I'm going to read, this book is very helpful in telling you what was happening in the United States as far as the debt, creditors and debtors, and all how this led to the writing of the Constitution. These are very important books to look at, or at least listen to their talks on C-SPAN. Those would be very helpful. Okay, the next paragraph that this book will be very helpful in understanding Unruly Americans. The public debt of the Union would be a further cause of collision between the separate states and confederacies. Separate states or confederacies. The appointment in the first instance and the progressive extinguishment afterwards would be alike productive of ill humor and animosity. How would it be possible to agree upon a rule of apportionment satisfactory to all? There is scarcely any that can be proposed which is entirely free from real objections. These, as usual, would be exaggerated by the adverse interest of the parties. There are even dissimilar views among the states as to the general principle of discharging the public debt. Some of them either less impressed with the importance of national credit, or because their citizens have little, if any, immediate interest in the question, feel an indifference, if not a repugnance, to the payment of the domestic debt at any rate. These would be inclined to magnify the difficulties of a distribution. Others of them, a numerous body of whose citizens are creditors to public beyond the proportion of the state in the total amount of the national debt, would be strenuous for some equitable and effective provision. The procrastination of the former would excite the resentment of the latter. The settlement of a rule would, in the meantime, be postponed by real differences of opinion and affected delays. The citizens of the states interested would clamor. Foreign powers would urge for the satisfaction of their just demands, and the peace of the states would be hazarded to the double contingency of external invasion and internal contention. So you have the national debt, and different states are going to say, well, it is not my problem, somebody else caused it, or we have already paid our share, we're not going to pay anymore. And before you know it, there will be fights amongst the states, and that would be terrible for us. So we better stay united and accept this new Constitution.